All right. Let's start with a little background, though, because some of you may not know about MSM Media. And honestly, even for me, I was actually surprised with MSM Talent, this VTuber agency, how many folks they have under their umbrella. Now, you may not obviously know all of them, but you may know a couple of them. You may know 3, 4, 5 of them. I mean, that's still something. That's still folks that you know. So I think for this reason, I think people are a little bit more invested in this. Also, just so you guys see, their Twitter's over here, which they've got their X, MSM Talent, right? And this is where MSM Talent reposted this post, which was obviously in response to false, saying agency lied to their VTubers, court records show agency contracts valid, owner being sued for debt. But now we've got a response from Seth. We have not watched this, so we are going to watch what his response is. Now, understand with Seth's response, I'm just going to analyze it for what are the legal points that Seth brings up. Is he making concessions? Is he stating facts? Is he stating a defense? Is he stating an excuse? Is this something that will excuse him legally, or is this something that is more for the eyes of the public? And Seth is obviously the head of MSM Talent. He's the one who is in charge here. So he's going to be making these statements. All right. So here we go with Seth's explanation. So this is the text, but he ends up reading it through. So we're going to go through this and we're going to pause this to give commentary when it comes to the legal points. Really not waiting too much to get into it today. So let's get started here.
There are accusations going around by a few individuals in our community aimed at me. Generally, it is my policy not to publicly address rumors within the industry. But in this instance, it's now going beyond rumors, affecting not just me, but it's also affecting my family and MSM Talent. So I'd like to clarify some major points. Our Maryland LLC has been in the process of correcting its status with the state when our CPA passed away suddenly. This has been the source of a number of delays, and we've had to get assistance from a new tax and legal professional. The process has been restarted with the new tax professionals for months.
Okay, stop right there. Okay, so this is one thing he's doing right away. He is saying that right now he's making an admission that his LLC has been forfeited, that it is no longer valid. It is in bad status with Maryland. They're not in good status. So she's admitting right now. He's admitting that they are in forfeited status in Maryland. Now, is it a defense if your CPA died? The answer to that is maybe if you're brought in on the crime of possessing or operating under a forfeited LLC. So let's stop this for a second and let's talk about the crime that is underlying this, because this is actually in Maryland. This is indeed criminal. So under their 2023 statutes, they have dissolution, forfeiture, and restatement under Section 4A, 919, penalties for transaction business. So here we go. Any person that transacts business in the name or for the account of a limited liability company, knowing that its right to do business in Maryland has been forfeited and has not been restated. So right now, this is the thing. And the requirement is knowledge. It's not knowledge like and an excuse. It's just knowledge. So that's the one thing, knowledge. That it's been forfeited and not been restated, is guilty of a misdemeanor and on conviction is subject of a fine of not more than $500. A prosecution for this violation may not be insinuated after the date of the articles of reinstatement are filed. So if they file articles to reinstate it, they'll be okay. So once you fix the status of your business, you're no longer liable for this. Now, some might say, okay, well, knowledge. Does he have knowledge? Well, that we actually get from a separate statute, which comes under a different part of the Maryland statutes dealing with prohibition of operating after you're forfeited, which says in the same language, but also includes a presumption. The presumption is unless there is clear evidence to the contrary. A person who was an officer or director of the corporation at the time it was chartered was forfeited is presumed to know about the forfeiture. So if Seth was an officer or director, which it appears he was on that, he would be a person who is liable for that. But if they're able to fix this quickly, which they should be able to do, frankly, his excuse, and let's go back to his excuse here, and let's flip back to his comments. So his comment here is that, oh wait, this is the wrong one. Hold on, I've got this on a different one. Okay, got his comments in multiple places, guys. Okay, so right here, he says that the process has been restarted with new tax professionals for months. That's something that I'm putting a bunch of question marks on, because it takes like 1 day to fix your status with a LLC typically, or a week maximum. It does not take months to start an LLC or to restore an LLC. It does not take this long. It does not take months, right? Unless there's something else going on that is an issue other than just filing your status. The filing status with the state is typically just paying whatever fees you need to pay and then getting started. It's typically a couple $100. I used to have a Florida LLC, and I would pay for that one once a year, pay a couple $100, keep it in status, and that's it. If it's your tax filings that are an issue, well, that's a separate issue. That might involve you not properly paying your taxes, other stuff like that. So that might be an issue. So it seems to me like there might be a bigger tax issue here that's at hand, specifically because his CPA passed away. So it seems like the real issue is probably a tax issue. They probably have some unpaid taxes. That's the only thing that makes sense here. So there probably are built up unpaid taxes, probably from fiscal year 2023, that are unpaid here, because otherwise you'd just be able to restart very quickly.
None of this has impacted talent's payments. As talents have always received any money they're owed, this has never affected our ability to work with sponsors.
Okay, let's full stop there. This is, I think, where we're going to see from Cabal, we're going to see some folks like that, where they say, our contracts are enforceable. Well, yes, in the sense that MSM talent still has the responsibility to pay their talent. Even if their CPA died, they still have to pay their talent. And even if the LLC was forfeited, they still have to enforce their contracts. Now, why is that? Well, because it is in the interest of the state, the government, society, and it's also in contract law that we want to try to make contracts enforceable. So what they will do is, let's say that somebody wasn't getting paid. Let's say Vienna wasn't getting paid. And let's say she was mad, right? Let's say she was mad and she sued. Well, she would sue the LLC, which was forfeited. But in addition, she would sue the director. She sues Seth, the officers. And the officers would definitely, in this case, be held to be responsible for this. And in the case that someone was suing, they would absolutely look into, okay, do we need to charge this guy with a crime? Because now he's not paying. Let's continue with this.
In terms of a blacklist, there is no blacklist. As managers, we will always keep track of potential bad actors and often warn talent, but we do not actively prevent talent from interacting with anyone. If our talent choose to collab with others, those decisions are made on their own.
Well, this is interesting about blacklists and whether or not there is a blacklist. There can be we strongly suggest you do not do this. I see that happening a lot, where it's not like you're officially banned, but we're going to strongly suggest you don't work with these people. We're going to strongly suggest you don't talk with false. We're going to strongly suggest you don't go on the show with Rima, or you don't go on the show with Legal Mindset, whatever, right? That could be something that happens, right? It could be sort of like Off-Kai. Remember Off-Kai? What did Off-Kai say? Oh, we don't call it a blacklist. We just say you're banned from the venue, and you can't come as your character, but as your pilot, as your person, you can pay us money. Yeah, Kirsha is not blacklisted, according to Off-Kai, right? So what people define as a blacklist, I think is pretty amorphous. So I think this could be one where they're both right. There's no blacklist because what they call a blacklist is just a friendly, strong suggestion that you don't, right? So that could be a thing.
Claims have been made stating that there were two entities being used for MSM, both Mad Scientist Media LLC and MSM Talent. They are the same entity. There's only been one Maryland entity for MSM.
Well, that could be an issue because are they working do they have a DBA filed? Now, I'm not a Maryland lawyer, right? But I will say this, you typically should have a doing business as. So if they've been doing business as Mad Scientist Media, but their entity is for, and they're then also doing business as MSM Talent, is that one entity, right? Is that filed? What were you contracting? We're going to look at the contract for what the entity is, right? So you need to make sure that all your legal documents are consistent there. That's very important.
Grinding Coffee Co. was a Black and queer-owned business. I was not in charge of this business, nor was I the majority owner. We rebranded due to the majority owner not being able to be more intimately involved, so we changed the branding. I can't get into the specifics for privacy's sake of those involved. Nonetheless, I'm on good terms with everyone from the coffee company.
Yeah, so it rebranded to Based Inc. Like, how I am like very curious. I don't know what privacy interests there are, but like, how does it switch over? Now, what could have happened? Maybe they got red pilled, right? Maybe. So what happened was at some point there was a company called Grinding Coffee Co., right? And it changed into Based Coffee Co. or something like that, right? So my question is, was it somebody that just got like red pill that just suddenly got based? It's possible. It's possible. It's very, very interesting. I really want to know, this is a genuine conversion? Because it could have happened. I actually will believe that someone could have said, hey, this is a grift and changed it over. Or was it just rebranded because of other reasons?
For Saucy Biz, a company does exist. It was filed months ago.
A hot sauce company. So they have a hot sauce company called Saucy Biz. And once again, if you haven't watched the false video, you can also watch the Asman clip video. Asman watched this video. So you've got Asman Gold to watch. You've got that one to watch. You can go back to my member stream to get all of this. But they own a hot sauce business as context.
It's registered under a different name, and I do not own a majority stake. The listed PayPal transactions in the video can be seen as returned due to our team identifying the issue that PayPal processing system was incorrectly listing the payment details. This has been canceled and funds returned to the customer at the time to ensure the transactions were done properly. To resolve this matter, we had offered the customer their order at no cost due to the inconvenience. After this issue was resolved, no more payments were done through a PayPal payment process.
There you go. Well, hopefully that's the case.
In terms of the other LLCs mentioned, these were utilized when I was serving as an independent contractor at a number of different businesses to protect myself.
Okay, so it is smart to have LLCs to protect yourself when you're an independent contractor, right? It is important. And honestly, you should have one LLC for that. You do not need to have a different LLC for everything you're doing as an independent contractor. I don't know what he was doing here, why he needed so many, unless he had some really crazy requirements. Maybe there's something he had I don't know about. it would be irregular. Is it impossible? No. But why he was using so many LLCs is questionable unless he had partners, unless there were other people's at interest. Now, here's his explanation for the next part. We're going to talk about this.
These LLCs are in forfeiture because I genuinely did not make use of them beyond what they were originally created for. After this, there was no reason to maintain the LLC.
Okay, so this is actually fine. This is actually fine because typically there may be a time and when you have to pay each year for the LLC fees. There's a fee to create a new LLC. So he's just creating them, using them, and then dropping them. Technically, that's fine. Technically, you're allowed to do that. Technically, that's fine if that's the real purpose he wanted to do it. He's not doing anything illegal there. That's perfectly fine. Many people do that. I've done that with one LLC, but the reason why I did that with an LLC, I did it with a Florida LLC, was because it was a business venture with a friend and they were a party. They were another director. So I no longer wanted to do that business anymore. We no longer had anything we were doing. We weren't really working on anything, or rather the other guy wasn't really doing any work. I was doing all the work, right? So I was like, you know what? We're just going to let this one expire because, well, it really doesn't matter, right? Like it really, really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to let that expire, right? But that's one, right? For my other stuff, I have another LLC. I'm not going to say what it is, where it is, whatever state, whatever, but I do have an LLC, but I generally use that for broad purposes for my contracting and independent consulting, right? And I've also got foreign businesses, but I'm saying in terms of US, right? One US based business, right? Which I use for all of the contracting. So it's that's usually sufficient. I don't know why you need a bunch of LLCs unless there's something going on with that particular business. So part of this is fine. Part of this checks out. Part of this, I have just some questions. That's all.
There have been claims that I endorse the doxing of individuals, and specifically that I would make threats to dox individuals. This is a ridiculous and completely untrue statement. As a talent representative, I do not endorse doxing and actively work to prevent doxing of many VTubers and other community figures, as I believe it is a safety risk.
Yes, it is indeed a safety risk. Doxing is not cool. Now, do I know whether he has doxed people or not? No, I can neither confirm nor deny this based on this information alone. I don't have enough to say, okay, has he doxed people or not doxed people or made threats, right? So he's saying he hasn't. Once again, further evidence may either demonstrate whether this is true or false. I don't have the evidence here today, and we're not going to go over this part today.
In terms of the tweet shown from 2016, I was a 21-year-old, and at the time, I thought it was something that was acceptable, when for many obvious reasons, it was not. The posts were made out of what was then an attempt at overly cringe humor, which does not reflect on how I feel about anything.
Okay, so let me talk about this real quick. I'm actually, I'm pretty, as much as people think I may be a dick, and I'm actually willing, I'm actually sympathetic to people who will admit that they were wrong or did something stupid. So I'm willing to give it to you once, right? You get one of these. But if this is something that keeps happening, right? Or then, I don't know, right? I'm willing to give it to you once. I'm very forgiving. But if it's something that is coming up or it's come up more recently, yeah.
I feel about anything. As for the Facebook account, my personal account has been hacked and relates to a situation completely separate from my current work. It's unrelated, but also a consequence of past mistakes, which I've been working to grow and improve from as an individual and as a business owner.
Okay, once again, I don't know whether facts related to that. Can't prove whether he was hacked or not hacked. So, can't say it as a bad thing. And yes, I do agree. By the way, I see in the chat people saying some people have made based into a bad word. No, I think it's a great word. I think it's absolutely great.
Where's the court date? This is a personal matter that has nothing to do with MSM and its finances. The personal matter had been something I was not fully aware of because I was moving, but has been promptly resolved with the collection company.
So he had some things he had to pay off and he paid it off. So he's showing he paid it off. Okay, cool. Well, you paid off whatever you had to pay off. That's fine. I mean, all right.
In regard to False's statement around claims against him, As a talent representative, I always have to have the best interest of my talent at heart, which will at times mean being the guard that has to give warnings to people who wish to interact with them. It often makes me a bad guy to others. Ultimately, my goal is simply to protect my talent.
Well, once again, I'd have to go back and check the statement, but he needs to be very careful that he's not entering into defamation territory, particularly as false as like running a business. So these guys, I mean, they're both running a business. So, I mean, to be clear, false has to be careful that he doesn't make statements that are untrue about MSM, and MSM has to make sure they're not making untrue statements about false, right? So they need to do a good job and a due diligence with each other and looking at each other's statements. In a way, though, and we're going to get into this, particularly when we get into the battle between some of his talent and pushing back against this. There is a goal, but you want to make sure that when you are protecting your talent, you're not saying things that are untrue. You're not making false statements. That can be a big problem.
MSM creators have the ability to leave at any time with no repercussions. As far as has been communicated to us, talent have enjoyed working with MSM. And we've done everything we can to rectify any issues brought to us, and we will continue to support them where we can. Ultimately, our talent satisfaction is our top priority. I've been seeing this all unfold, knowing that the thing that makes this as bad as it is are my past mistakes. I'm seeing my colleagues, friends, and talents harmed and caused unnecessary stress and fear. It's exhausting. I'm exhausted. I've worked for the past 3 years with our goal to build a place for talent to grow and accomplish their dreams, and we will continue to do so. We will continue to help this industry in any way that we can. Asmongold was right. I was a hustler, working my...
Okay, so Asmongold called him, to be clear, Asmongold called him a hustler and said that he would move from thing to thing to thing. And it's not bad to be like hustle culture. It's a big debate. Like, is hustle culture good or not? Now, I'll put that, let me put a poll in the chat. This is actually very divisive. Is hustling good or bad to you? I just want to know. So good, bad. I just want to know your gut reaction when you hear the word hustling. Do you automatically think it is a good thing or a bad thing? What's the feeling you get? And yes, I'm asking you how you feel about a word. I know, but I'm doing this knowingly. I'm doing this knowing that I'm asking you your gut reaction, because people do react to it differently.
My ass off trying to accomplish something and making a metric ton of mistakes along the way. But what we've built over the past 3 years is an amazingly talented team of staff that have molded MSM into the well-run talent management company it is today. I've learned from my past mistakes and have channeled that work ethic into this project. We've worked hard to ensure that the careers of everyone involved in MSM can grow. Thank you for listening to my side.
Okay, so I want to tell you right now, guys, I am a little bit more sympathetic. I'm a little bit more sympathetic to this because he actually says he was wrong and made mistakes. So I just want to say that I do want to incentivize. I think people should admit they make mistakes more. And to me, too many people, especially on the internet, try to pretend they don't make any mistakes. I've made mistakes. Other people have made mistakes. People fuck up. We're all human. We make mistakes, right? So I am more sympathetic towards him because he admits he made mistakes, right? Now, some of the things he was accused of were, well, in some cases, potentially criminal, right? But even we talked about how it is technically, once again, let's pull this down and let's go back to our Maryland law. It's technically criminal to not keep your company updated, right? It's technically a misdemeanor, which is a misdemeanor is a type of crime, right? To transact business when you know it's been forfeited, right? And as an officer, director, you're presumed to have knowledge of that. So, you know, there's some things he's accused of, and I understand why he doesn't want to fully directly admit to them, right? Although in terms of knowing about the company being forfeited, it seems like he did admit to that. But at least he's saying, hey, look, you made mistakes. So to a certain extent, there's that. Now, is he admitting to everything? No, certainly not. Certainly not. So that's not a full confession saying, you know what, False was right, Asma was right, I 100% did all the bad things. No, what he's saying is he was working hard, right? And it is commendable to a certain degree.